cup at a time. Yeah, this is tea time. Yeah, making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time. Making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time.
Well, welcome to Tea Time, everyone. Yes, it is Wednesday, and yes, Miss Liz is here. Usually we don't do tea times on Wednesday. This is my first tea time on a Wednesday, so I expect to have some different viewers, different watchers, listeners out there. And I'm putting this out there that, sometimes you have to twist it up, right? You got to put something different out there. And I'm glad that Diane gave me that little twist because I like to see if people are paying attention. Because when we do the reunion shows, there are questions, there are quizzes to see if people are paying attention. So I want to welcome everybody who's tuning into Tea Time today. And I want you to get over to the YouTube channel if you haven't subscribed yet and ring that little doorbell. You're going to be notified for all these incredible tea times, and you can watch them anytime during your drive, a picnic, a family get together, in a business boardroom. If you're bored, you can turn on Miss Liz's podcast and listen. Don't tell anybody that I told you that, but hey, you never know, right? Let's just twist it up a little bit because that's what I do. Miss Liz serves twisted teas. So let's get the disclaimer out there, and let's get the bio, and let's get Diane in here, and we're going to serve you a different kind of tea. We're going to serve you travel, engaging, and acceptance. And we're going to twist it a little bit because Miss Liz has a couple other surprises that I'm going to do today, because today is Wednesday and we never do tea on Wednesday, but today we are. So we're going to twist it up a little, and we're going to make some really incredible memories together with Diane. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz, myself, is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forward dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment and taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that this show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection, and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in today's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect those wishes and will see you at a later show at a later date and time. And again, all tea times are done on Thursday, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m., unless it's a surprise tea time or a special tea time like today. So you can find those on Monday and Tuesday, but today you're finding it on Wednesday. So I really want to put it out there. Today is Wednesday, and Miss Liz is going live. So that's how much Miss Liz plays with the flow of tea. We really have some excitement. So now a little bit on my guests. Well, who's sitting in the back, first of all? Well, it's Diane Bator. I hope I'm saying your last name right. If not, we're going to correct that when she gets out here. She's an author, a book coach, a mom. She's a mom of three, and the author of over a dozen mystery novels and many work in process. She has also hosted the Escape with a Writer's blog to promote fellow authors, and is a member of the Sisters in Crime Toronto, the Writers Union of Canada, and a board member of the Crime Writers of Canada. When she's not writing and coaching authors, she worked in her first play, which may lead to more. And her website, you will find that across the screen today when we're talking. So let me get Diane in here, and I hope I've said her last name right. And we're going to talk about all these incredible groups that she's in as well. Welcome, Diane. Did I say it right?
Bator.
Yeah, there we
easy.
go. See, sometimes I pronounce the letters instead of the flow of the word, right? The flow of the name. So
it's been said so many different ways, it just doesn't matter. As long as you spell it
right. So Diane, let's get into who Diane was as a little girl and who Diane is now.
When I was a little kid, my biggest dream in life was to appear on the Oprah show. And Oprah's no longer really doing the show and stuff, but when I was a kid, I always thought, well, I'll be a writer or I'll be an actress or, I'll be somebody really important that Oprah will have to talk to me. And while that has not happened, I have definitely become a writer, and I've taken drama classes. I've worked in theaters, but, I kind of just prefer the writing part.
So, Diane, were you shy? Were you an outgoing girl? Did you like to meet? Any of that stuff?
When I was a kid, I was always one of those kids that really wanted to do stuff, but just couldn't. I had that, if I get up there and do this, people are going to laugh at me. People are going to think I'm weird, which if you kind of did anyway. So I did. And looking back, I'm like, I wish I wouldn't have held myself back. And I don't know why I did at the time, but now I'm kind of making up for it with, becoming a writer, doing all kinds of webinars, or not so much webinars, but workshops and those sorts of things, and talking to other authors, especially.
Awesome. So today we're in the house because you wrote this incredible book called Written in Stone. So let's talk about that book.
That book has been kind of a work in progress for a few years while I was writing other things for my publisher at the time. And it was kind of one of those passion projects because the main character, Alison, she's a romance novelist. She doesn't expect to travel across the country, which is what ends up happening. She's invited to become a writer in residence. She lives in Toronto, and she's never been to Vancouver Island that she can remember. And she ends up discovering that she has a whole family over there that she did not remember. And she also discovers by the end of the book that she has had some trauma and when she was a small child, and starts to remember bits and pieces. So though the first book is kind of the introduction to Alison and her family and kind of the whole dynamic about who she is and where she came from. And she also helps to solve a couple of murders along the way because it is sort of a cozy mystery, as well as family drama. And I do have 2 more books being planned. The next one I'm hoping will come out early next year. And the one after that, well, I have to write yet. So
how long did it take you to write the book?
The first one took me a bit longer because, as I said, I was working on other projects. I was working with a publisher for about 10 years, which is, I've got 15 books that they had published. And this one is actually more near and dear to my heart, I guess, because it was kind of that passion project in the background that I did not send. And I've ended up self-publishing that this year because I broke away from my publisher for a lot of reasons. And I started self-publishing. And now all of my books, they're still, you can see them online, but you can't purchase them just yet. But they are all being rebranded and republished. So they will all be out within the next 3 years.
Oh, so you're rebranding and republishing?
Absolutely. So yeah, over 15 books is going to take me a little while.
Wow. It sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
So how did you get the title of the book, Written in Stone?
It actually comes from Alison has a stone, and I don't have mine. I don't know where mine went to. I just moved. So yeah, that it's not anywhere close by is not not by choice. Alison has had this rock for as long as she could remember. And she calls it her pineapple engraved in a rock.
Oh.
And that pineapple rock is kind of a clue to her past. So when she discovers who actually did that rock and what it actually means, that becomes a huge thing for her as well, because I don't want to give it away too much, but
No, we're only giving you guys little
teasers,
little teasers.
But it is somebody who was very close to her at one point and that she did not remember, but she has held on to that rock, and she never knew why. So
Diane, what got you into writing?
I'm one of those people. I've always had a very, very overactive imagination, and it became a great way, like, going through childhood, and there was a lot of things that went on in family life and all of that. And it was a great escape for me. It was a great way to, I guess, make my world easier. And I've got stories that I wrote way back when I was like 12, 13, but I've always been a bit of a storyteller, and I would go out. We lived in the middle of the country, so I'd go out picking berries, and I'd be telling myself stories the whole time and looking around for bears just in case. but I was
in Canada. There's a lot of bears around.
There are a lot of bears. Fortunately, I only ever ran into a gigantic porcupine, and when I say gigantic, no word of a lie, this thing was massive. And I just stood where I was, and I did not move. And this thing just walked past my dog and I, and we just kind of watched it go the other way. And it's like, okay, cool.
So Diane, do you feel that writing has saved your life?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, absolutely. I mean, when it wasn't just storytelling and writing fiction and that sort of thing, I have journals from a long time ago. And I found, for me, like in my mental health and that sort of thing, journaling had just helped me to talk through things when I didn't have anybody else to talk to. If you don't have that other person that you can sit down and rely on and say, this is what's going on in my life. And, I just need somebody to, sometimes the best advice can come to you when you start writing it all down and you start to look at it from another side as well.
Do you find that the pen and paper was like a friend?
Absolutely. And to this day, like a lot of people I know, they prefer to write on a computer. This is what I do. I have little notebooks that I take to work. And when I have a few minutes, literally, I think I wrote like 30 of these itty bitty pages the other night because it was quiet. And it was just, I started writing these short stories based on this new detective character I created last summer. And I'm trying to write her backstory. Oh, sorry. I've got a cat chewing on my foot. Never a dull moment here. So it's been a lot of fun. So I've been publishing these in an anthology through another publisher. And once their 3-month mark is up, after they've been published, I can use them for my own purposes. And I've decided that come December this year, I'd like to put out probably 6 or 7 of those stories as a volume of short stories, because they're all connected and they're so much fun. And it's going to be Dash Almond Mysteries or Dash Almond PI Mysteries or something like that. I haven't quite got the title yet, but I've had so much fun with this character, and people that have read it have just been laughing because she's that person you want to be, that you just keep your mouth shut and don't say it. She just says it.
You just said, I wonder, right?
Yeah, she's just one of those people that goes, okay, this is the way it is, and this is what I'm doing about it. So, she loves to see justice in the world, and she likes to help people when she can. So she's just become one of my favorite characters, I think.
I love that you have the little notes, because that's how my office is. I got little journals all over. So if anybody found these journals, they'd be like, what the heck was she doing?
That's the writer thing, though. Like, I have so many empty notebooks, and I keep going, oh, this one's so cute. And then my daughter looks at me and goes, how many do you have? Like, oh, I need one more. You always need one more.
We have something in common, because I'm that's my biggest thing is when I go into a store is journals. If it's got a quote or something on it, I don't care how many journals I have at home. I just need it. And,
I have a whole
you know,
basket just behind me here. There's a whole big basket. I'm like, maybe I should start using some of those first.
well, my kids are always like, Mom, can you just write something in them? So I'll just write like, okay, well, this one I think is going to be like the fun one. This is going to be the secret one. I'll just put like one word in them, and I'm like, see, I'm using it. Like
Mom's book.
growing up in Diane, did you ever do, where they used to have in the beginning of the books where it says belong to, and then you would put your name in?
I would have a lot of loose leaf especially when I was writing. So I would be doing my homework. Yes, that was it. I'd be doing homework and I'd have all those loose leaf papers and I would just be writing away. And, back then I didn't have a pen, it was pencil. So being left-handed, I had the blackest hand from about here to here, just because I was writing in pencil and dragging my hand across the page. But you know what? Like I said, I do still, somewhere in one of these boxes behind me, there is still stuff that I wrote as a 13-year-old. So it's kind of neat that I'm going to sit down and look at it again one day and go, yeah, maybe I can do something with it. We'll see how bad it is.
Or look at it and say, where the heck was I thinking when I wrote that?
Holy, was I young.
Wow, I really thought that way.
Ooh, yeah.
When you hold on to the stuff, the good stuff, right? Like those journals and everything. And then you look back and you see the transformation that you make through life, right?
Oh my gosh.
It's like a travel, right? It's like the travel. And that's the word that you gave me was travel. So I wanted to play with that word, right? So let's travel through the journals. So
it's funny because those two concepts really fit together in a kind of an odd way for me. I was living in Southern Ontario up until last spring. And all of those journals that I had, it was just, it's funny how things just fit in. And I had boxes of journals and I'm like, okay, well, I'm moving. I can only take what fits in my car. So I had to figure out what to do with these boxes of journals. And it was actually, I was taking a Natalie Goldberg course early last year, which seems like forever ago now, but I was taking this Natalie Goldberg course and she was talking in one of the sessions about how she had hundreds and hundreds of stacks of journals and books and all these things she'd been writing in, and they were all full and she didn't want to throw them out, but she didn't know what to do with them. And somebody actually suggested to her, why don't you scan the pages? Keep it in your computer or keep it on a drive somewhere so you still have it, but you don't trip over it and you don't break a toe. And I went, oh, that is brilliant. So all of my boxes and boxes of journals, I actually sat and I scanned every one of them. I think I ran out of time actually, and I had to bring like half of a box of journals. But it was really great because as I was scanning it, like you said, you kind of catch glimpses of who you were 10 or 15, 20 years ago, right? And it was just like, wow, I said that. Ooh, that's rude. Or wow, I've changed a lot since then. So it was really cool. And then to have that in me when I'm traveling, I drove across Canada from Ontario to Alberta with 2 cats. Don't recommend it. Yeah. Puppy pee pads are the best invention ever for cats. So,
really?
They are. You can put them in the bottom of their carrier. If they go, you can stop, clean it out, and put in a fresh one, and away you go.
Oh,
it was brilliant. Yeah.
Just learned something new.
And it's really funny because I had never really traveled by myself. I was always, people always tell you, well, you have to be careful because somebody's going to do this and somebody's going to do that to you. You have to be careful. You have to watch people around you. And I'm like, I drove across Canada by myself with 2 cats. And it didn't sink in until I got here and I let the cats out and they were like, oh, solid ground.
We're not moving anymore.
We're not moving anymore. Like I had to hide those kitty carriers because they freak out every time they see them now. Even we just moved a couple of weeks ago and they were like, no, not again. Like, no, it's only 5 minutes. You're okay. No hotels. But it was just such a learning experience, just internally more than anything. You know, externally, oh my gosh, the country is fantastically gorgeous. And you can tell as soon as you leave Ontario because it's flat and you can see from Ontario all the way to Calgary. So, and that's a lot of miles. So it was just really great. And it was such a cool experience. And then later, last summer as well, I ended up traveling to BC by myself to go to a writing conference. And I had a beautiful place to stay. So that was wonderful. And it was like it was a pretty cheap holiday, really. But it was really neat just to be on my own holiday, just myself. I didn't have to worry about what anybody else wanted for dinner or, you know, or what they wanted to do with the day. I went to one of the beaches in Osoyoos and I just walked along the beach and I ate a silly hot dog from the hot dog stand. It was just wonderful because there was nobody else to rely on or nobody else to attend to.
And sometimes that's nice, right? A nice travel alone.
Yeah.
Especially as a mom, right? We just like that moment alone. And sometimes just that travel is a nice getaway.
It really, you know what? That, like I said, that was really the first time I'd done that on my own, like completely solo. And it was just wonderful. And you see yourself as being more resilient than you ever thought you were.
Yeah. It gives you that real reflection of, oh my goodness, I can do this on my own.
I was driving through the mountains, looking down the cliffs going, holy.
Right. And you don't have somebody in the background. Oh, don't go deal with that. Or, you know, wait up for me.
Watch where you're going.
Right. So the second word
in the ditch.
Right. So the second word you gave me for your T is engaging. So tell me why you gave me that word, engaging.
I think part of it was for me, being a writer is not only engaging with my audience and doing my blog. I was trying to do that for a long time. And then my head hurt from trying to come up with ideas all the time. And that's when I started sharing other authors. So I have had authors literally from all around the world that have been on my blog that I have worked with and engaged with. And I reach out to a lot of them and go, hey, you have this great book and it looks really cool. Do you want to, you know, I don't have a massive audience. It's building, but it's not massive. But I have that passion to help share and to help support other authors in particular, other artists if needed, you know, whoever. But I love to sit down and engage with other writers in particular, just because we have that same kind of mindset. Like we were talking about the books, you know, who else has hordes of books? You know,
everybody raise your hand out there who has a lot of books, has a lot of journals.
Absolutely.
I'm raising my hand.
Right. Oh, you can see some of mine. This is just a small sample, which is, yeah, not fun to move. But
I think that's the only thing I don't like about moving is all of the stuff that I don't want to get rid of, that I know I have to pack, right? That I know I need to bring. And I think that shows us a lot too in the growth, right? When we're moving for downsizing, because that's a good time to downsize stuff as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Is when you're moving.
Like I said, when I left Ontario, I had what would fit in my vehicle. I shipped a few things ahead just because there were things that I really wanted to keep that I knew wouldn't fit. And whatever else did not fit into the car, it stayed behind or given to friends or whatever. And I'm like, no, it won't fit. So you learn to just kind of cut cords with some of those things and go, okay, well, I'll get some different things when I get there, like furniture. You know, can't take that. But it was really a great opportunity for me at the time. I had a great opportunity at the time that kind of went sideways, but it was a really was one of those years that you learn how strong you can be.
Yeah.
And I've been through just absolutely the ringer in the last year. But I've got a job now that's really close by to where I live that I absolutely love. And I love the people I work with. And I don't think of it as my job. Because the writing and the editing and the coaching and all of that, that's my job. This to me is, okay, well, this is my rent support. this is my addiction support.
Right. There's always that left and right that we need.
Right? You have to pay rent. You have to eat. So, you do the things you do. You do the things you have to do in order to support that.
So I want to get into your last word. Your last word is acceptance.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about this before we went live. So let's share a little bit about acceptance, because you've really had a lot of acceptance.
My whole life has been about acceptance, honestly. And when I moved here last year, I moved in with my son. And last August, my son came out and as trans. And now I have this incredible daughter who, and at the time, as soon as she said, you know what, I'm a woman and I'm taking hormones, I'm doing this. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. And we're just kind of looking at me going, okay, you didn't know this was coming. I'm like, well, if you look at certain things, and even she said she looked at certain things from when she was a kid. And I'm like, it makes sense. And we a couple of her brothers and I just kind of went, okay, well, we're not calling you her until you give us your new name. Once you give us your new name, and once you start, really showing us that you're shifting and that, this is where you are going with this, as soon as we have your new name, we will call you she. But it just sounded odd to call her by her what they call their dead name when, it just seemed weird, right? So give us your new name, we'll call you she. And then she had to come out to her brothers, her dad, all of that stuff. And it was amazing how everyone just kind of went, oh, okay, that's cool. And pretty much everybody just kind of went, all right, you're still you. You just have a different cover now. Like you.
Well, and that's the thing, right? They're still the same person, not the same. Well, not person-wise, but I mean, they're still that inside, right?
Yeah.
They're always going to be your child. It's just them finding a different way of life and feeling comfortable in their own skins, And that's, I think, where we don't have enough conversations about, Diane, where a lot of parents are, well, you should be this and this, all that shooting on their child and making their child feel like they've done wrong, where you've come and said, you know what, I have accepted it. And I'm okay with it. Just give me the name that I need to call you. And
Yep. And now she's doing the whole transition with her name and all of that. And the funniest part, this is the part that I just cracks me right up. She's so much better with makeup than me, which I'm not a big makeup person. And she went from hating shopping to, can we go to the mall? I'm like, okay. And it's so much fun to watch her. She goes and tries on things and she's learning more about who she is at the same time that I'm learning who she is. And just to watch her blossom from the person she was before that I was very concerned about mentally and, in that aspect, to this person who she comes home and she's happy and she's who she is inside and out now. Yeah. So, and that part, it makes me kind of upset in some ways that people they don't take the time to have that open mind about all of these, there's a lot of kids more than anything, but I do know people older than me that they've been transitioning.
Yeah.
And I think it was easier for me because I met this great person. Her name is Tiffany, and I adore her beyond adoration. And she was my first real trans person that I got to know. And she is just lovely. And I think I have one of my older books, All That Sparkles, is the one that I'm redoing right now, that I'm re-editing, and I'm going to redo the cover. And Tiffany is actually there's a character in the second book, All That Shines, and her name is Quinn. And Quinn is based on Tiffany, and she knows it. I've told her repeatedly, like, you're my muse, you're my inspiration. And it's really neat because we would have conversations, or I would see her posts and stuff, and she would share all these things. And I'm like, okay, well, now I have my daughter as well, that I can say, okay, well, how would you feel about this? Or how would you react in this situation? And so it's really been an amazing educational thing for me as well, just knowing these amazing women.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's the thing, right, Diane? It's educational for us, right? Instead of being scared of it, get to understand it.
Yeah, talk to them, from them.
And I think that's anything in life, right? Is anything that we don't understand, we're scared of, and we judge right away.
Yeah.
And I think we need to start doing the reverse, right? Yeah. We need to start understanding it. And even if we still don't understand it, still ask questions, get educated, and have the conversations, and not be, well, that's not right. That's for you, it might not be right, but for them it is. So let's start accepting people for who they are, not what we want them to be, right?
That's it. That's a huge part of it. We can go back to the engaging part of it too. Like, if you're not going to engage with people, how are you going to learn? How are you going to know what they think or what they feel like, or, get to know their side of things? People are just so quick to judge, like you said.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I noticed when I did my homework on you, Diane, is you have a lot of mystery series out there. So does that go with like your tea as well? Because mystery is like a travel, it's engagement and it's acceptance of what's the outcome of the mystery.
Yeah, exactly. It was so funny. Like, when I first started seriously writing, I had a story I was working on, and this was back in 2007 in 2005, I moved from Alberta to Ontario, and I started writing this book, and I was just kind of like, dabbling with it and stuff. And then I got involved with a writing group, and this writing group, I would read a little bit of my story because I was like, I'm brand new at this. I stink. And a couple of them just kind of gave me really harsh criticism. But some of the criticism, when I sat back and looked at it, I'm like, okay, well, I understand this. I understand where you're coming from, but that's not what I'm going for. So some of it I took, some of it I went, okay, well, that, I'll put that on a shelf for later. And eventually I just finished the story, and I was like, okay, well, I was kind of plugging along with it and going, okay, well, I don't know quite where I'm going with it. But I ended up entering this contest, and it was called Murder in Ink. They based it on a murder mystery party game, those old 80s party games. And they give you all the characters, they give you all the clues, and they wanted you to write a 10-chapter novella in the point of view of each character.
Okay.
And if you ever want to stretch your brain, that's a good one to do, because having to write it, one of the characters appears twice because he's the crime solver. He's the detective or whatever he is in the story, or she is. So the crime solver or the police person appears in the first chapter and then the last, because they have to wrap up the mystery. But all of the other chapters are different characters in the story. And that was just a crazy thing to do. And I ended up winning it. And they published my novella. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. Let me have it. And it's this little one, and it's called Murder on Manitou, which I will republish eventually. It hasn't been out for a while now, so I just will need to redo that and stuff. But that was my first real foray into mystery. And I was like, oh, I can do this. This is kind of neat. So then I took the book I'd been working on and I turned it into a mystery. And I just completely kind of rewrote a lot of it and all of that. And that became my first published novel, The Bookstore Lady. And my whole adventure with agents and publishers and was just like, boop, boop, boop. It was meant to be. I had a friend read the book, and the friend, we were critique partners online. She read it and she said, well, do these edits and then send it to this lady named Dawn. I'm like, why would I do this? Dawn was an agent and she passed away last year, but we worked together for years, and then we continued on to be friends long after we stopped working together because we didn't have any projects together at the time. And she was the one that helped me get published. So I ended up with 2 different publishers for a while. And then I lost one and stuck with the other one. And now I'm on my own by choice going, okay, you know what? I saw behind the scenes of what this other publisher did. And I'm going, I can do all that. Why am I paying you? You know,
and sometimes you need that reflection, right? You need to look back and say, oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm paying something that I could do myself.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I hit at the end of last year. And this year, like I said, Written in Stone came out in March, and it's been doing kind of well. Like, you know, it's for not having any of the other books available right now. And moving and all of that kind of sucks your time away. You don't get to do the marketing you want to do and that sort of thing. But I've been doing a lot of podcasts and a lot of blogs and some magazine articles and that sort of thing. So I'm keeping my fingers in it, but it's just not what I want fully to be doing. But I'm hoping once the other 15 are back up and out and I'm kind of making some waves, then people will start going, oh, wait a minute, you got a lot of work out there. So, and then once this Dash book comes out, I think that one's going to be a lot of fun. I've had people reading different stories and they laugh themselves silly because it's just so much fun.
Oh, well, that's good. So it's a Dash book.
Dash is the name of the character.
Okay.
Yeah. Her mother named her after Dashiell Hammett because her mother was in love with Dashiell. And, you know, Dash is like, I hate the name. I want to be called Sophia or Julie or something.
I like the name Dash, right? Dash it right out.
It has stuck for her. Like, I was just writing about her very first mystery that takes place when she's 12. And she becomes this crime solver at 12 years old. And her parents are like, no. You're supposed to write them, not solve them. And she kind of takes it from there. And then future stories are when she's older and she's a little more grown up and a little more mouthy and a little bit more apt to do silly things that get her going viral on YouTube and stuff. So.
Well, I kind of like the name Dash. It's different. It's unique. I love it. But what I really liked about what you sent me from Creative Ed is the blur of what Written in the Stones. And it says, what happens at Grandma's house stays at Grandma's house.
Yeah. And I think that one came up because what happens at the beginning, and I'm not giving a lot away, is there's a fire at the place that Alison is staying in. And the woman across from her ends up dying. And they don't know why right away or anything. They think it's smoke inhalation. And when she learns that she is the granddaughter of this woman who passed away, she's given the keys to her grandmother's room. And she goes in there. And one of the things that's in there that haunts her is this little sign that says, what happens at Grandma's house stays at Grandma's house. And she's like, but I don't remember Grandma's house. Oh. And yeah, and there's not a lot to give away because that's the whole beginning blurb on the back cover. So
that's what you guys are getting.
Right?
You gotta go and get your copy.
But it's really it was so much fun just having her figure out who she can trust and who she can't. And because she doesn't know anybody in town, that's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
You know, you have to get to talk to people, you have to meet people, and pretty soon she starts finding out who she can really count on. So Yeah. And it was, like I said, it was one of my favorite. And that that particular book has been, I have shopped it around to a couple of publishers. And then I had, being a part of Sisters in Crime, they had a night where you could pitch to an, what do you call it? To a publisher anyways. And they would kind of give you a feel for what they thought you should do with it and whatever. And I had it set in Canada at the time. That Alison lived in Vancouver at first and went to Toronto, and was her grandparents or her grandmother was somewhere on one of the Great Lakes. And when I pitched it, the acquisitions editor, sorry, that's who it was. And then this acquisitions editor was from the States, and she goes, oh, well, you know, us Americans, we're kind of stupid and we like to read things from our own backyard. So if you set it in Maine, then people will buy it, or in New England. I'm like, well, I don't believe that part for a second. Like, I know a lot of American friends, like they'll read a lot of stuff. And it just, that turned me off of, you know, that publisher for sure. But it just kind of gave me this, okay, well, I'm going to hold on to this book because I'm not sure what I'm doing with it.
Yeah.
And then when all of this happened with my publisher, and I went, okay, I don't know, because my contract with them was supposed to end at the end of April, and I didn't know what was going to happen between January and April. So I'm like, okay, I'll focus on that one. That will be my first book that I put out self-published, and whatever else happens, happens. I gave them my notice, and I had everything back by the end of the day. All of my links were taken down. And I was like, I was basically pushed out in the cold by the end of the day. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I could have done it with any of my books, but going forward, that's the one I chose. And I don't regret it. I actually designed the cover as well, which I love the cover. It's just, you know, it's very much a beachy lakeside feel. So, and the next book in the series will actually be called Diamond on the Rocks. Oh, and okay. And I've already got, I haven't got the cover quite. Yeah, I did get the cover done for that one. I have. And that one I'm having a lot of fun with too. So.
Well, I want to, you're bringing up some good things like the diamonds and the covers and the colors and all of that. With the written in the stone, the flow is really beautiful. It's really calming. And the word that you gave for yourself, describe yourself as a person, is warm. And the colors that you gave me, blue, pink, and purple, they're all calming colors.
Yeah. So
let's get into the word and let's get into the colors. But let's start with the word warm. Write that word for yourself, Diane.
I just want to put it this way. My daughter has called me a people collector.
Oh,
and I know, right? And that could be a really harsh thing, but we actually went into a store one day, and this lady came over and she said, oh, would you like to try hand cream? And before long, the two of us are chatting like we've been friends since school. And my daughter is laughing, going, how do you do that? You just walk in, you start talking to people, and pretty soon you've got a best friend for life, and you don't even know what their name is. and that's it, right? And when I moved here and I was working from home and doing my writing and everything, I found that the one thing that I really missed was people. And as much as some days you hate people and you just want to curl up in a cave and pretend nobody out there exists, I needed that human touch, right? Or that human conversation.
That connection.
Absolutely. And I find that all of these, the checkout terminals and stuff and all of these stores, I'm like, I hate them. My daughter's like, oh, that's just your generation. I'm like, no, it's like you don't talk to people. You used to go and buy groceries and you'd have a chat with the checkout person. And, you know, next thing you know, you've got another friend.
It is so true, Diane. Like, you go to the self-checkout and like, are you talking to the machine and you're saying, well, you know, and then they ask you the grade, right? To grade yourself, like at Walmart, 1 to 5. And I always give myself like a 1 or a 3. And my spouse is like, why are you doing that? And he's like, you know, that messes up. I said, well, like, it kind of messes me up that I have to check out my stuff and they're asking me how I did. Like,
Yeah, like it's, and even like where I work with people. I work in a post office and I work the front cash. I kind of can go anywhere in the store and do anything. So it's really great because a lot of people will see me there and go, "Oh, I'm not going to the machine. I'd rather come and talk to you." I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah.
good." and I have people come over and tell me things that I just stand there and go, "Oh, okay, that's pretty personal." I used to
Absolutely.
work in a bank and I had a guy, we started chatting and he goes, "Oh, I just got this tattoo because my buddy died." And he's ripping off his shirt in the middle of the bank. I'm like, "Okay, it's a very nice tattoo, but can you get dressed now?"
Can you put your shirt down? But it is so true, right? We live in a society where it's turning no more engagement, right?
Yeah,
And I'm the same way. Like I love virtual LAN and I love doing these, but I miss the people. I
right?
miss having that conversation in face.
Yeah.
It's that connection. And some days you look at those Walmart checkouts or any store checkouts, and you're like, "Is this what we're coming to?" Like,
Absolutely. And I think that's why I said, like, when I talked about my job, my writing and this kind of thing, this is my job. This is what I see as my job. That, working where I work and dealing with the people and doing all of that stuff, that for me is kind of an escape,
yeah,
which sounds backwards, but at the same time, that's where I have the fun. That's where I sit there and I talk to people. I mean, I love this part. I love the writing. I love the editing. I love talking on podcasts, and I just love talking. Never mind. But it's having that human contact and having that. That's kind of my outing for the day.
yeah.
Which, I go to work and all these people are like, "Oh, I'm going to be at work," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm here. Yay. What do you want me to do?"
Right now, everybody's like, "Why are you so chipper to be?"
What is wrong with you?
Everybody's like, "I want to just get home," and then they get home, I want to go to work. Like,
But I mean, I have so many things keeping me busy and all of that, and I'm constantly, going and doing and whatever. And that's kind of it's weird, but it's kind of my downtime. It's my away time because I'm not thinking and I'm not, on screens and I'm not on here and I'm not on there and I'm not working on story. Well, I work on stories sometimes, but they know. If there's nothing else to do,
there's your little mini notepad there, guys, and she's taking notes.
yeah, there's always a pad of paper or pieces of paper. I've got all kinds of papers that I come home with that I'm like, oh, even if it's the back of receipts, I'm like, oh, yeah, napkins, you name it.
So I want to get into the colors. You gave me pink, purple, and blue. And when I look at those colors, they flow nice together. And I tried to put pink, purple, and blue on today, and I got pink and purple and a little bit of blue. But why those colors?
You know what? I think it wasn't until you said that actually that I'm like, I think it reminds me of kind of my happy place. And being at the beach, you can watch the sunrise, you can watch the sunset. I've spent lots of time watching sunsets and stuff there. And I'm very much a go with the flow beachy person. And I think that's a big part of it is just that, the morning skies, the night skies. So you get those colors just so vibrant and just so, warm. We'll go back to the warm and welcoming. And I think they all kind of go with my personality that way.
And I think it all flows nice together, right? It's like a mother of pearl, like in a seashell. All the
Absolutely.
colors flow nice together, right?
Yeah. It's a blending. They all kind of fit together.
Right. And it's like that swirl and written in stone, like the
Yeah.
stones and the diamonds, maybe on the beach. There's a storyline there. So
Yeah.
you just never know. You got to go and get the book, guys, because that's the way it works.
It is fun.
So Diane, I want to do something different with you today because it is Wednesday and I'm never on a Wednesday. I don't think I've ever done a Wednesday in the 5 years that I've done Tea Time, but you know what? I love it that you're like, let's do Wednesday. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And sometimes you got to have that little twist out there because you just never know. Maybe a Wednesday is when people out there need tea time.
Yeah.
So I got a couple questions here and I want to get into them. So the first question I have for you is, do you have any funny travel stories?
Yeah. Besides traveling with 2 cats? No. Used to travel with
I guess you kind of gave me that one, right? Like the cats. But do you have any other stories that were fun and adventures?
Gosh, I mean, I used to travel with 3 kids all the time, and some of the things that would happen, like we would always have road trip songs playing, and one of my favorites was Bon Jovi, and it was "We're Halfway There, Living on a Prayer," and it would never fail that one of the kids would have just said, "Are we almost there yet?" And that particular line would happen, and we'd always start laughing. It was just always the funniest thing. And you just never knew what was going to come up, especially with 3 kids in a car. Oh my goodness.
Right?
Sometimes they'd squabble, but sometimes there would be lines that would come up that you'd just be like, I gotta write that down. That's good.
Where's my notebook? And I find that traveling with children, especially 20 years ago, was a lot of excitement, a lot of conversation, a lot of storytelling back then too.
Because they weren't all on their games, or they weren't, it took a while. The kids had games and stuff for sometimes, but it would be like, okay, you can play for half an hour and then you have to turn it off because your eyes are going to be all like, woo. And then it would be, okay, well, let's play I Spy, or let's play let's do the alphabet game, or let's, do all these silly things in the car that some kids don't even know what you're talking about anymore, because they're just, plug in a movie. The kid's going to watch a movie for the whole way to Florida or whatever. And it was like, no, we didn't do that. Like, we made lots of stops along the way. We were always doing little adventures and doing fun little things here and there. So, the 3 kids and I, we took our own trip one time when we lived in Ontario, and we lived close to Sauble Beach, which is a beautiful little beach and great little beachside town in the summer. And it was crappy weather. And the kids are like, well, we can't even go swim, and we can't do this, we can't do this. We found a place that did glass wind chimes.
Oh.
And I have them. They're still packed somewhere. I have to find those too. But one of my kids was doing welding at the time in school. So he made this beautiful little, it looks almost like a lampshade. And then these 4 little wind chimes hang off of it. And it's such a great memory that we just sat in there. I don't even know how long it took us, maybe an hour. And we had to wait a couple of days for them to be in the kiln and everything. But it was just so much fun. And it's one of those things that we talk about. Oh, remember when we went and made the wind chimes? Those were so cool. So, it's making those little memories that the kids still talk about some of these trips, because we'd go camping, we'd go, and they learned how to start fires, good fires, just saying. They learned how to build campfires. They learned how to put up tents. They learned how, we learned a lot of great things and just had a blast.
Well, I think just putting up a tent now with children is, it's funny. It's really funny. It's like they put one spike into the ground. They're like, okay, is it done now? And no, you got to push it up. You got to put this in, and you got to.
Where's the tent?
and they're on their phone while they're doing it, and it's like, can you put that thing away? Can you just have some fun? Can we get a little dirty? Can we play in the mud? My sister visited a couple of years ago in 2017, and I didn't have any toys because all my kids are adults, and I didn't have any grandkids back then. So I was just like, I don't have any toys for my little nephew to play with. So I was just like, okay, what can we do? So I went into the cupboard, took a Tupperware, put some water on the floor, made some little splash puddles, and my brother-in-law was like, have you lost your mind? And I'm like, what? And he's like, you're making a mess. And I said, we're making memories. He's having fun. He's giggling. Let him have some fun. Exactly. And then after that, I bought some toys because I knew grandkids were going to start coming. So, but now in today's world, we're so scared to get a little dirty. Back in the day,
has to be sanitized.
We were making mud pies, and cooking them in the oven. And
right. Well, and I think it's funny too, is my 2 boys, they both have girlfriends, and every now and then I'll get pictures of one of them. They had a date night, so they were doing painting. So they have these beautiful little paintings they did together, and The other one, his girlfriend just sent me a picture earlier, and they were making bracelets that match their eye color.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, like who does that? It was just so sweet. But that's how they were raised. They were raised doing all these weird little, all these fun little things.
So all of these little adventures that you've been through, Diane, with your children, do you think you'll one day put them into a book?
It's likely. It is likely. Like I have stories I wrote when they were kids that I've just never done anything with. And I dug them up one day too when I was moving from Ontario. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I really have to do something with this because it's just so much fun.
Absolutely. And I think it brings back good memories, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Diane, if anybody wanted to reach out to you to have you on their podcast or do an interview or just get to talk with you because you're the people connector, right?
Absolutely.
How can they reach you?
You can go to my website, dianebator.ca, Canada. And and I'm also represented by Mickey at Creative Edge Publicity. So you can reach out to Mickey as well, and he can set something up.
And if anybody wanted to get the book, where could they get the book?
Anywhere you can buy books online.
So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all of that good stuff.
You name it, everywhere. Yep. I made sure it's gone wide. So.
Well, that's good. So any plans or any events or workshops or anything coming up?
Oh, that's really funny. We have a conference in Calgary every year called When Words Collide. And I actually, for the first time in person, I've done panels virtually before, but I've never done one in person for them. So this will be my first year. I'm doing one panel and a workshop on memoirs, which is really kind of cool.
Oh, so is that a virtual event or is that in person?
This one's in person. Yeah, we're starting. I did another one earlier. When was it? April? I want to say April. Yeah, end of April. And that was the first time I've done this memoir workshop. And then I was on a panel for there as well. And it's kind of fun getting back out there and doing all the live things again. And because, not only did COVID shut us down and made everything virtual and all of that, but, just the moving and all the stuff going on in my life right now, there was a lot of things I just don't have the time and the energy. And now life is kind of sort of settling down again. I don't want to say that too loud, but now that
you're not going to say too loud out there, just in case something comes, right? Another little twist.
Yeah, there's been so many twists and turns this year. It's just been crazy. So we're just kind of taking things a day at a time. And
well, I'm really glad that I got to sit and talk with you and get to know you because you sound like me and you, we could align really good together.
We'll have to do this again. I'll have more books coming out soon. So,
well, I had a pleasure having you on and sharing. So, what final message do you have for all the listeners out there?
If I always say, if you want to write a book, if you want to act, if you want whatever your dream is, whatever your passion is, follow it. Life is just too short. You want to write a book, you need some advice, dianebator.ca. I'm happy to talk to you.
Yeah, because that's something we didn't really get into was the book coaching, right? So if anybody would like to be book coached or editing as well.
Or just even have somebody that you can be accountable to and say, hey, I did this many words this week. I'm more than happy to do that too.
Well, that's awesome. And I want to give a special shout out to Mickey Mickelson at Creative Edge for allowing me to have this conversation with you and have this incredible tea, travel, engaging, and acceptance. We just never know what type of tea we have and how it flows together. So thank you so much for that, Diane.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I will be back again tomorrow. That's right. I did yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow with 2 new TEAs. I have a husband and wife team coming in, and we'll be talking about spiritual expansion of intimacy. And then we go into mental health and fragrance, fragments of mental health and a personal story with an incredible lady who lives in Canada as well, in Ottawa, which I'm hoping to connect with very soon in person. I'd love to meet all of my guests in person, but time and travel, you just never know what might happen. So again, thank you so much, Diane. Thank you to all the listeners and viewers. And another special shout out to Michael McDonald for being a bronze community supporter of Miss Liz's Tea Time this month. So thank you again for that, Brian McDonald from Best Version Media, for supporting Miss Liz with that. And I will see everybody tomorrow, same time, same place, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. tomorrow for 2 new TEAs. Until then, keep serving your tea and keep being true to yourself.